For today's topic, we're going to be looking at living a life of financial peace, living a life of having finances under control, having what God has given us and being good stewards of that and taking care of that and giving back to Him what He has so graciously given to us. And so the purpose of this speech is to inform this class on how to biblically go about handling finances. Not only that, but also to encourage all of us to be good stewards of what the Lord has given us. He's given each and all of us amounts and blessings and finances. And the goal through this speech is to learn how we can faithfully honor Him with that. And Dave Ramsey is a very famous man, and his goal is to teach people how to take care of money in a biblical way. And so for this essay, we're going to be looking at the steps he gives. And in fact, to intro into this, he gives a quote in his course of Financial Peace University that is like the cornerstone of the whole class. And he says, the goal is to live a life like no one else so that you can live and give like no one else later on. You see, Dave has crafted a 7-step plan that has proven to turn people's lives around. Following each one of these steps with discipline and with intentionality will help you get a handle on your finances in a godly manner, in a biblical manner. These 7 steps focus on changing your behavior towards money through a proven step-by-step plan. So you're saying, Nate, what are these steps? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're about to go through them, all 7 of them, really briefly, and we're going to unpack them and see what Dave is encouraging his students to do, and that we can glean from and apply in our lives as we strive to honor the Lord with what He has given us. So he starts out with step number 1. And step number 1 he titles, Save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. This is the easiest, but yet the hardest step. It's saving $1,000 and putting it into a savings account for an emergency fund. Right? The focus of this is to do it as soon as possible, ASAP. Focus all your energy on getting this baby step done. And this comes along with also learning how to budget. In this step, Dave Ramsey also gives a budgeting plan. It's called the Zero Budget, and it's where you budget every cent that you have of monthly income for it to be purposed to go towards everything. And so when you see your budget, you start seeing of how much money you're wasting on things and how much money you could be putting towards things that need attention, such as an emergency fund. Because here's the truth of it. Emergencies come up out of the blue, and we always think we're going to get by and we'll be fine, but then the emergency happens and we're in a crisis and we don't know what to do. So the reason Dave wants us to start out with saving $1,000 for an emergency fund is so as we strive and as we work to a state of financial peace, we have that emergency fund to fall back on in case anything bad happens, because emergencies are bound to happen. So save $1,000 as fast as you can and do this, but also set up a zero budget. Right, a zero budget. It will take about 3 months to get a feel for how to accurately set up a budget that is specific and tailored for you, for your income, for your monthly expenses. And it takes a few months, but once you get in the routine of it, it changes your life. It's not restrictions on spending. It's allowing spending. It's showing you, how can I take this money God has given me and be faithful with it, with my expenses and with my tithe and with my generosity. Hebrews 12:11 says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. And the verse finishes saying, later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Doing this first step, creating this discipline with our money, is hard and it's not fun. But later on, when you get later down in the steps, when you get later down in life, a few years down, you will be so thankful for the roots you planted, for the works, for the fruit that is being brought out because of what you reaped. Because of what you sowed. So that's step number one, saving $1,000 and creating a budget that you can live off of. Step number two is pay off all debt except for the house. Okay, so we're paying off all debt except for your mortgage. And we do this by using the debt snowball. You ask, well, what is the debt snowball? And Dave Ramsey uses this explanation of, imagine a hill. And you start here with the snowball, and as it goes down, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we want to use our income and any extra money we have in the month to put towards our debts. So we have our minimum payment on each debt, but we want to focus on the least amount of debt first. Okay, so you want to put all your money towards your smallest debt while still paying the minimums of the rest of your debts. And then once you get done with that one, move to the next smallest. Then once you get done with that one, you move to the next smallest, and then move to the next smallest, and to the next smallest, and so on. And it creates a snowball effect of you're just trampling over your debts and paying them off. And so this could apply for us with student loans, of start putting money to just invest and pouring out all your money to get rid of those debts so you can be debt free and out of those chains. And it's important to understand, starting out adulting, and many of you are already adults in your midlife, but we must understand that wealth is built by our income. It is not built by our debt, right? Debt just puts us more and more into debt, into debt, into debt. And we want to build our wealth, but it only comes by our income. And so how do you get out of debt? Here's some quick steps. Quit borrowing more money. You must save money, sell something, take a part-time job, and the most important one, prayer really works. You can wander into debt, but you can't wander out of it. It takes discipline. Step number 3, save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. Okay, so this is a fun one, and this one can take a while. But having a fully funded emergency fund is insurance. It's not an investment, it's insurance for you. This fund will prevent you from going back into debt in case something huge happens, right? We have that $1,000 emergency fund, but all we're doing is we're just plopping more into it so we could live sustainably from 3 to 6 months if something bad happens. You see, this step will protect you when life's biggest surprises hit. And an interesting statistic is 80% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And so imagine for these Americans who are struggling paycheck to paycheck, and something comes up and they don't know what to do, and they reach for the credit card, or they reach for the payment with high interest rates, right? But imagine if you had worked and worked and worked at saving up this 3 to 6 month emergency fund, and you could just, instead of going into a crisis, it would just be an inconvenience of going to the bank, pulling out the money you've been saving for a year and putting it towards that expense. So step number 3 is saving 3 to 6 months of expenses. This discipline will be hard, but it will make the future much more easier. Now the next 4 steps, steps 4 through 7, you do in order, but at the same time. So the first 3 steps we do at a time. Okay, we do step 1, then we do step 2, then we do step 3. But for steps 4, 5, 6, and 7, we do in order, but at the same time. Right? And as I explain it, it'll make sense. So step number 4 is invest 15% of your household income into a retirement fund, right? And this is just a tax favored account, a savings account. Okay, the keys to start investing early on in your 20s, consistently, and let compound interest work its magic, right? There's a difference between the younger man who started investing earlier on than the older man, because the younger man can stop investing earlier on and make more in the future, while the older man still has to keep investing and won't get as much as a younger guy. So take advantage of being able to invest in a tax-favored accounts and piling up compound interest. Step number 5, save for your children's college fund. This is a great savings plan to help your children or future children go into college without debt, just like you wish you could have gone into college without debt. What a blessing this would be for our children. So the key is to start now using an education savings account or a 529 plan. Okay, so as we're doing this, we're investing into a retirement fund. We're saving for our kids' college. Step number 6, pay off your home. If you have bought a home and you are just stuck in a mortgage, we've already paid off the rest of our debt. Our home mortgage is the only one that's left. So what Dave Ramsey wants us to do is pay off your home early. When at this step, this is the last debt standing in your way, and knock it out. This step takes the longest, and it is like a marathon. So put any extra money you have in your monthly income towards this step and get rid of that mortgage in 15 years. Okay, and we're doing all these steps at the same time. Okay, so we're investing, we're saving, and we're paying off. And step number 7, the one that everybody wishes they could get to right now but takes work, is build wealth and give. This is the goal of any person, and especially a child of God, a follower of Jesus, is to be able to be insanely generous. Right? So when you reach this step, you made it. You live like no one else, and now you can live and give like no one else. With no more debts or payments, you can truly build wealth and be crazy generous. 2 Corinthians 9:7 says, each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And at this step, you can be insanely generous because you've paid off debt. You have 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund. Now you can freely bless people, do fun things with your family you wish you could always do. But it takes discipline and it takes intentionality to live like no one else. So in the future, you can live and give like no one else. So let's be good stewards of what God has so richly provided all of us. I hope you learned how to biblically go about handling your finances, and that you will be obedient by being good stewards of what God has so graciously given you. Let's live a life of financial peace.